You know that your personal data is getting sold, but what if you could be the one getting paid for it? On the flip side, if you have a brand, then you know that you need personal data to grow. But now, you can't just take it. You have to earn it. In this series, I'm going to predict future trends based on data that we've already seen and thousands of trends that come together to spell out a bigger pattern. Right now, your data is making billions for other people. So I wanted to explore what would happen if you could rent it out. Global ad revenues passed about 1.1 trillion in 2025, with digital responsible for most of that growth. Digital advertising alone is estimated around 734 billion in 2024 to 843 billion in 2025. If even 10% of that was actually sent to the consumers whose data is being sold, we're talking tens of billions of dollars that would be flowing directly to you. So why isn't this happening? And what trends are we seeing now that might indicate this could be flowing towards you in the future? That is what we're going to chat about today. So first, let's talk about how much money's actually flowing here. Global digital retail media spend, so ads for companies like Walmart, was estimated at 136 billion in 2024, forecast to hit 145 billion in 2025. These dollars are driven by your browsing, your purchase history, your location, behavior, usually collected indirectly via third-party trackers. Now, if you were able to sell your data to platforms like Amazon, individual consumers could potentially make between hundreds and thousands per year, depending on how much you shop online, how much time you spend on the internet, things like that. And that's just if we're doing simple division. Now, for what seems like the first time since this online shopping boom, people are waking up to this fact. They're realizing how much money their data is actually worth. Data that they never explicitly agreed to sell. And when surveyed, people are saying enough is enough. A survey of 2,500 internet users found that 84% believe companies should pay them to use their personal data, and 91% believe that they should be able to control, edit, and delete it. And new data shows that people are willing to trade their data for value. A 2025 study found that 99.6% of consumers are willing to share some personal data in exchange for relevant incentives, and 71% want brands to learn from their shopping habits over time. And this isn't really news, right? I mean, all of us have given our email address or a burner account address to get some incentive, coupon, whatever. So people are sharing their data in exchange for a monetary value. So the problem really isn't that people don't want to share their data. It just means that people hate being exploited. They're actually super willing to share their data if it's transparent, they control it, and they get something back. So where did this demand for payment come from? Like, when did people start really realizing this? To answer that, we have to look at the collapse of invisible tracking. Remember back in 2021 when iOS 14.5 came out and apps had to ask explicit permission to track users across apps and sites for ads. By Q3 of that same year, about 80% of iOS users opted out of tracking on major social platforms, causing advertisers to lose around 40% of impression volume across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Now let's talk about third-party cookies. Google's moves around cookie deprecation and the privacy sandbox have pushed advertisers to scramble for alternatives. 69% of advertisers say cookie deprecation will have a bigger impact than GDPR and CCPA, and 70% think that digital advertising will take a step backward as these IDs vanish. And marketers themselves said that they're not ready. Only about 12% of them said they were prepared for this new landscape. So basically, the old model was track first, ask questions later. Now you have to ask, and a lot of users are saying no. Now this forces the industry away from secret tracking and towards a consent-based value exchange, which is exactly where paying users for their data becomes plausible. So let's talk about what that means for 2026. Here are two terms that are extremely important to know going into 2026: first-party data and zero-party data. Zero-party data is explicitly and intentionally shared by consumers to businesses, while first-party data is implicitly taken from customer behavior. For example, let's say that you're browsing Amazon and you click on a few different running shoes. Amazon records all this data: what pages you visit, how much time you spent on those pages, what you've added to your cart, things like that. That's first-party data. Now let's say you're on a website and you're looking to buy some makeup, and you see a quiz on the website to figure out your perfect shade. Now, in this quiz, it asks you questions about your skin tone, your preferences, your email name, things like that, just basic data. that is zero-party data because you gave it intentionally. Both of these are types of data gathered from the user, but they're very different in the intentionality. That being said, first-party data is still the priority for a lot of businesses. 79% of global CMOs said first-party data marketing is still their top priority. And a survey showed 75% of consumers are more likely to share personal data with brands they trust. And people do prefer this. Research shows 37% of consumers actually prefer personalization based on data that they have explicitly shared, not data inferred by tracking, which as the consumer makes complete sense, but sometimes as marketers we can get lost in the weeds and forget these basic things. So if you are a marketer or if you are running an e-commerce brand, here's why you should care. Your brand survives on trust. That's the new landscape. You have to get people to trust you and be willing to give you their data. And to build trust, you need to personalize. McKinsey finds personalization typically drives 10 to 15% of a revenue lift, sometimes up to 25%. That behavioral data based on personalization can boost conversion rates by up to 20% and significantly impact repeat purchases. Now, the future alternative is buying data from consumers themselves, which already kind of exists if you think about it. If you are on a website and you get a 10% discount in one of those irritating pop-ups the first time you visit the site, that usually comes in response to giving your email. So you're giving the email in exchange for however much 10% off is to whatever the cost of what you're buying is. But let's go a step further and see how people are already monetizing their own data. First is the Brave browser and the basic attention token. Now, Brave blocks traditional ads and tracking, then it offers their own privacy-respecting ads. Users who opt in earn BAT tokens for viewing ads. Users receive 70% of ad revenue Brave gets from advertisers in the form of BAT. Next is the Nielsen computer and mobile panel. Nielsen literally pays people in gift cards or cash rewards for allowing measurement software to track their internet and app usage, up to about $60 in rewards per year for some participants. Now let's look at Reklaim. It's positioned as a take back what's yours platform, where users can see which companies trade their data and earn rewards by choosing to share specific data segments. You've also got data cooperatives or data unions. Stanford's work on data cooperatives highlights platforms like Streamer, Pool, and Citizen Me, where users pool their data and get paid when it's licensed to companies. So here's how consumer licensed data could work. Let's look in the future and say, for example, you have a data wallet that stores shopping history, browsing data, demographic information, preferences, all stored under your control. Next, e-commerce brands could say, make an offer. We'll pay you X amount of money or give you Y discount in exchange for your data or a segment of your data. And of course, that hinges on them only being able to use your data for a set amount of time, say 12 months. This way, the data is licensed, it's not sold. Limited time, revocable access. And users like you and me can see who is using what when. Payments would of course be small individually, but big in aggregate, potentially billions of dollars spread out throughout consumers. Now, I can already feel billionaires shaking in their boots at the idea of this, but let's talk about why this is actually better for the economy. First, the data quality would be better. If people are paid, they have an incentive to provide accurate and current data. There's also going to be higher consent rates. Instead of 80% of people opting out of tracking, you might see users actually opting in when they're compensated. You would also see more bargaining power. Data cooperatives could negotiate on behalf of millions of users at once. So what would this structure look like for e-commerce? There would be a new cost structure for acquiring user data. Right now, brands pay platforms like Meta, Google for their targeting capabilities. And those platforms silently harvest user data. Now, in a paid data world, part of that money would be reallocated to users like you and me. Cash payouts, store credits, loyalty points, whatever it is, it would come in a form like that. Now, for e-commerce brands in the short term, sure, you would see a higher acquisition cost because you're paying both the platforms like Meta as well as the individual consumer. But longer data, I guarantee you would see a better conversion rate, a better lifetime value, because you're marketing directly to people. You have flawless data that you can gather to personalize your ads and give people the most value that is personalized to them. And there's data to prove that. Remember, about 10 to 15% increase from personalization alone. So now I ask, what do you think? Could you see this happening in the future, or do these platforms have a chokehold on the data, consumers, and brands? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you want to see more dives into potential future trends like this, also let me know below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.